Welcome to Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan.
Jacquie Jordan, it's Marla Maples. I hear you've got a new iHeartRadio podcast, Front and Center, making things happen. So here's to all the people who are making impact. Have a great time. God bless.
This is Front and Center with your host, Jacquie Jordan.
Entertainment and pop culture expert Jacquie Jordan is with us.
Two-time Emmy-nominated Hollywood producer Jacquie Jordan.
We are the show where we talk with the change agents, the storytellers, and the activators from behind the scenes, making impact. And joining me is co-host Phil Barbb. With show producer Stephanie Cobian.
I'm a war myself. I'm a war movie myself.
What I do is provoke conversations and provoke a creative process.
I can tell you, Tommy Lee Jones, when you go to do an interview, he already sets you up.
Welcome back to Front and Center. I'm Jacquie Jordan, and this is the show where the storytellers, change agents, and activators are making impact from behind the scenes. Joining us, I call her my fairy godmother. She is the author of Nearly Famous, Tales from the Hollywood Trenches, and she literally is an example of our show, a behind-the-scenes influencer and impactor whose career has spanned a really fantastic and significant time in filmmaking history. Reba Merrill, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I am really good.
I can't thank you enough for your behind-the-scenes support and your friendship. And you've got a phenomenal, just a phenomenal story where we just saw the clip of you with Sean Connery speaking.
Oh.
So how many interviews do you think you have accumulated in your time as a celebrity interviewer?
Well, I'll tell you how many have been digitized. That's the only record we have is 500 right now.
500.
Though the Academy, the Motion Picture Academy, which has my archive, I am part of their archives. They have my collection, said there were quite a few tapes that were not digitized, which they will digitize them. And I just want to say this. I'm going to be I am the first video collection at the Academy that they've ever taken. Most of their research was always print. They never thought about film or video.
That's crazy. Can I just say they never thought about film or video? Is that what you just said? That's crazy. Okay. I thought I heard that. Oops.
Well, this is in the research part.
Yes.
Okay.
But still.
So what has happened is USC has built a new vault, and I have no idea who put up the money, but it was for the Shoah Foundation that was created by Steven Spielberg. It was an invitation only from USC to the Academy, and they chose my collection to sit right next to Steven Spielberg's. I kind of like that.
Congratulations.
But it's for posterity. It's to show Hollywood.
Can you name drop some of your best interviews, your most impressive ones?
Well, I would say my Harrison Ford interview from Air Force One was the one that impressed me the most. It wasn't the first time that I had interviewed him, but it was strange. I do a lot of research, and I knew that I was sitting down with a curmudgeon.
Yes. I produced him before.
He doesn't like you.
He doesn't like it.
Kill you.
He doesn't like interviews. He doesn't like this part of the game.
So I walked in, and I never told him that I had interviewed him for Star Wars, and that I wrote about it in this book, where how terrible he was.
And Nearly Famous.
At least I wrote that he was terrible, but I just let my 27-year-old grandson read the interview, which I have already apologized in a million different ways. And he says, "Oh, Grandma, you really got him to talk." And the whole time I thought that he didn't say a thing, and that I did something that you're not going to do and you won't do in the interview with the camera running, because it was a one camera shoot. I looked at my watch because I was so bored. I said, "Please get me out of here." I didn't say anything because I had learned my lesson. But I did say to him, "Don't worry about the questions. I know all the answers." And whatever that translated to him changed the whole dynamic of our entire relationship because I went back and interviewed him a lot more times, and he actually knew who I was, which is very rare.
That's a beautiful compliment. I mean, to the fairness to an A-list actor, they have to do these press junket interviews to promote a film, whether they're an extrovert or not. Just because they're an actor doesn't mean they're necessarily an extrovert. And
Wait a minute, most of them are not.
Exactly.
Most of them, what makes a really great actor
Isn't it?
is somebody who's shy, who can take the character playing and put it on like really fine leather gloves, and that you don't see the seam. So, hey, they don't want to talk.
And in our insatiable celebrity culture of give us more of you, they sit for hours doing these press junkets about the film that they're doing, and they talk to Interviewer, Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, and they do these interviews, and it's tiring. I don't think they don't always enjoy it. So if he remembers your name,
it's a mix of personal and what
Yes.
they're trying to sell, which movies change, shows change. So you
And
have
it's
a
a
lot
ton
of
of the
hard
same
work
question.
to do.
Yes, and I didn't do that.
It's the same thing. And what I was going to add to that, and even with all of those places that you spoke on, now because of digital being so prominent, and everyone has a podcast, everybody has a video blog, everyone has all these things. You have a lot of people that are inexperienced in asking questions and interviewing.
does that drive you nuts, Reba?
So what? Yeah,
When you
what's your
see it
advice?
happen? Does that would drive you nuts when you see it happen?
I'm really very diplomatic now that I'm on this podcast. Not just this podcast, but I have been podcasted.
And you were a female leader in what you did.
I came up with a concept, which I figured was about this small, is that I would do the interviews and your television show would play them. And you couldn't cut yourself in. And you couldn't even give me credit. But you could put your voice where mine was, and you got a script. And that little idea became very big.
Very big.
Mm-hmm.
It became a template too.
Yes.
It became a template. I mean, they still do it to some degree. I mean, they still do it.
Well, they do it. I mean, I did, in the beginning, I did the interviews in hotel rooms. Then I did interviews on film sets. And then in 1991, I got a chance to start doing interviews for international. Totally different world. First of all, they don't even talk to domestic, which makes it really different. But the truth of the matter is, what was wonderful about this is that I got to sit in a hotel room and somebody did my hair and makeup, which they never did when you're on a film set. And even though you didn't see me, they ran a camera on me for sound. I was the backup sound, which was just fine. So I got to see a lot of who I was and because you never get to see who you are. And I have a new book that I don't know when it'll come out because it just went to the publisher and they haven't read the 570
You're being
pages that
published
I
by
sent
Rare
them.
Bird Lit, which is awesome. Congratulations.
But the truth of the matter is, it's all the interviews. Well, not all. My publisher said, pick 20 to 30 interviews that you like. And I picked 44. It was like a mother. I mean, these are my babies.
You've done Sean Connery, Harrison Ford, Tom Hanks, Whitney Houston.
Cher. 2 Chers. Cher good and Cher I'm going to kill you. In between, she won an Oscar. In between, this was only her second film. So she talked. She talked about everything. And I've got it. But the truth of the matter is, when I interviewed her 10 years later, she was miserable. She didn't like her director, Paul Mazursky. She didn't like her leading man, Ryan O'Neal. And so she took it out on me.
How do you navigate through all these different personalities of these stars?
Well, one of the things I learned, and I'd really like to go back for a second. I never asked the same question anybody else did, for the simple reason is by the time I'm working for International, the studio is now giving me 60 minutes of hype. And when they give me 10 minutes to do an interview, I want my money's worth. I want it all. And so I realized what makes me me is that I'm nosy. But when you work in Hollywood, you're not allowed to go too far. But let me tell you where you can go. You can always go to childhood. You can always ask them a question about something that happened in their childhood. You can always go to failure. Oh my goodness, failure is a great subject. Because what I was looking for was one thing. I was the sport at recess, opening comment coming out of my interview out of Harrison Ford. Okay? And if you don't believe that every television producer, and by now they're playing in 60 countries, my interviews, didn't love Harrison Ford admitting he used to get beat up at school. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's a great, I mean,
and
yeah,
the
you're
thing is
absolutely
that
right. That's a headliner.
But you asked me a question. They're always good to me.
I say it's because you always made them look good, which is part
Yeah,
of
because
your...
I was the puff. I mean, she does all the serious work, and I'm the puff person. But the truth of the matter is, I can tell you, Tommy Lee Jones, when you go to do an interview, he already sets you up. Like, I dare you.
I dare you.
Yeah.
And so I used to be a blonde. And so when I deal with people like that, I become a very dumb blonde. Please help me do this.
With all your experience that you had, of the times where you would interview someone maybe earlier in their career, once successes started to come in, and then had the opportunity to go back later, was there anything that you could see a correlation that was a trend of how people would change once they became stars?
It's called money. Lindsay Lohan for The Parent Trap. Adorable at 12. Lindsay Lohan from Hervey Fully Loaded kept me waiting 45 minutes while she sat on the phone. And the studios did nothing. She went from adorable 12 to getting $7 million.
And we know what happened with that,
How
too.
can you not be affected by this outrageous two things, the money and the accolades? The money's true, the accolades are you know what.
Right.
Oh, you're wonderful. And you're so good looking.
Reba, you have been very candid about some of the studio abuse that predates the Me Too movement.
Well, I know this is a podcast, and I will censor it as I talk. The first job that I went looking for, I was offered all the off-camera interviews I wanted to do because that's what I knew I wanted to do. I didn't know I was going to have a company. I was just looking for a job. And it was for a major studio, and he was the president of a division. And he said to me, I've looked at your reel. Let's have dinner and discuss, and I'll tell you all about what films I want you to work on. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is Hollywood. I'm going out to dinner with the president of a division of a major studio. And so we got to dessert. Oh, by the way, it was a fancy restaurant in Beverly.
That's the all that glitters is not gold moment.
That's right. And he said, I'll give you all the movies you can handle, and all you have to do is perform a sex act 3 times a week.
And
I have to tell you, I thought it was a joke. I'm married. I did go tell my husband. I didn't tell anybody else. But a week later, I thought it was a joke. A week later, he calls and he said, are you willing to come work for fill in the blank studio? And I knew that was
conditional.
The question was, were you willing?
Yeah, it was conditional.
Yes. And I didn't. And I was blackballed from that studio for 8 years.
And you also started the peak of your career. You got a lot of momentum much later than women usually do. How did you get to Hollywood?
I failed my way up or down, whatever. I had worked for CBS in San Diego. I was fired for my age, and then I got 17 rejections and an Emmy. I won an Emmy in there, a local Emmy.
What does it mean? You've used the phrase with us before. You're Hollywood's best kept secret.
It means that the studios did not want anybody or production companies or whoever hired me to know what I was doing, because what I did look like a Barbara Walters interview. Because the secret of selling a movie is not talking it to death. It's opening it with something soft enough to get a local producer who you need to play it. The center is the hard sell. Ram in as many behind-the-scenes footage or movie clips as you can get in. And the end is Harrison Ford's looking me in the eye and saying, I had the best job in the world. Of course, when I talk about that, I'm going to tell you I had the best job in the world.
Do you have any recent, posts that you've seen online, pictures that has inspired you, a photo spiral in the last, say, 30 days, maybe one that you've shared or posted or taken?
I went to Poland with my entire family to say goodbye to my husband, their father, and my lover. And we had a picture taken at the restaurant that we shared his 60th birthday on. We came back many years later, and in that restaurant was all of us saying goodbye to my husband, their father, and their grandfather. And it was probably the most moving thing because he was the most amazing man, and I wanted the world to know that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
That's beautiful. Reba, what's the name of your upcoming book?
Got it.
Got it.
Got it.
Got it. And also Nearly Famous is your first book, Tales from the Hollywood Trenches. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your impact from behind the scenes and being with us here front and center. And to find out more information, rebamerrill.com.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan podcast. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at TV Guestpert. We'd love to hear from you.
What AI can do, artificial intelligence, is it could put a doctor literally in your pocket.
Everything that we see on TV and all of entertainment is a balancing for something going on in society.
Only a Netflix and, an Amazon, for example, could be front and center of what was happening because the networks had what we call legacy agreements.
Tomorrow's never promised, my time is now. So when I lose my way and I'm confused, I remember to surrender and I can't lose. Well, the answers are all around you, but you gotta take the time. Listen to that voice inside you, gotta watch out for the signs. Everything is interconnected, all a part of the great design. Don't forget the smells and roses, make a friendship is mine.